Come on by and have a bite at the Crossroad Diner, where your spirit goes when it might be time to change direction. Welcome back to Mondays in the Crossroad Diner. I'm Steve McCurdy, and the blue monster to the side over here is John Burnett. Well, how you doing, buddy?
Well, I'm excited. First time I've ever been called the Blue Monster, so I just really appreciate that introduction. I'm going to take it as a compliment.
Yeah, please. We are going through the structure that John teaches as a coach in mission, vision, and purpose. And we've gotten a couple of weeks behind us where we've done some identification of things, and we're going to continue that process. John, walk us through the summary as you would like to see it perceived.
Yeah, absolutely. The key piece that we're discussing in these videos is defining your personal mission statement. So the idea that we are on mission, I found a great clip with the Blues Brothers that maybe we'll show towards the end, that where they talk about being on a mission from God. We're on a mission from God. And I believe that, I believe we are on that mission and that we're created for purpose. So defining that mission statement is a mission critical piece of our mission. And so that's what we've been working through. The first thing we did, step one, was to identify your core value. So going through the process of looking at things that you value most, not an easy thing, as we talked about. You have, you circled several different words as you were kind of working through being a guinea pig as we do this. But remind everybody what you settled on. There it is.
Authenticity was my final answer that kind of encompassed everything. And I've come, it's been 3 weeks now, and I have kind of come to the place where I'm going, that's it. My own authenticity and encouragement of others finding and acting out of their authenticity, not to sit around here and tell people what to do, but to encourage their truest self to have a safe place to be around me and in the things that I work on.
Yeah, no, perfect. And it's really good. That's a great point you brought up, whether on purpose or by accident. And that is that this is a living, breathing process, right? So you've now lived with it for 3 weeks, and it is not becoming more foreign to you. It is feeling more real to you. And that's exactly what happens when we identify that core, that central value point for us. So then the next week, we went into the idea that a value without any action is meaningless. And so we went through the process of identifying 3 verbs, because verbs bring action. And that was a bigger process because we're narrowing it down not to 1, but to 3, and a much larger sheet of paper. And of course, we can go off sheet, which you have that opportunity to do. And you've been working on that homework this past week. That's correct?
Yeah, right.
Did you come up with your 3?
I have 3. They are you ready for them?
I am ready for them. Yeah, bring it on.
They are connect, communicate, and inspire. Connect,
communicate, and inspire. Very good. So if you could kind of walk through the process of the homework. Obviously, you identified many and you've narrowed it down to a few, and then you narrowed it down to these 3. Do you have the worksheet where you can kind of answer the questions that you were asked? The one before that.
Yeah.
The one before that. Where you kind of
this one?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I'd love to kind of hear that process and how you came down with those.
Yeah. The first question is identify verbs and actions that appeal to you but aren't on the list. And I put affirm and enrich. And I said that I think the words here on the sheet are adequate to achieve those types of outcomes for me, affirming and enriching. And there were a million verbs on there that were in that family. But affirmation and enriching a person's experience of who it is that they are, enriching my experience of who it is that I am, validating that, as a journey. One thing this is maybe a little sidetrack here, and if you want to,
Yeah.
we can back off of it. One of the things that I went through on this is I've got my very best friend and my girlfriend. Not the same. I mean, my very best friend is a guy, and my girlfriend who is not a guy. When
You're
they
barely
looked
even friends
at,
with, right?
no, she's a very good friend. When I asked him about passion and that sort of thing, he says, I think I do passion differently because both of them, what they wanted to do, their mission was to find the richness in whatever experience they were in. They didn't have a kind of this, the kind of life goal you and I have been talking about that had to do with going out and being an influencer of any kind. They are both outstanding, remarkable parents and were present very much for the development of those kids. Both of them have worked deeply with other people, and their missions statements, I think, would be more along the lines of, being fully themselves and enriching the lives of the people that are right around them. And I want to validate that and say, this isn't about some great, becoming president of the United States or something like that. This is whatever it is for you. And that the calling isn't always to go do some great thing, but rather, as you might put it, to be this great person. And that's just as valid as having a desire to be a great actor or a writer or a producer or a business person or, whatever. It's not about those tasks necessarily. It's about the being. And I think you've stressed that many times.
Yeah, that is a great way to. That's exactly what we're doing. The process that we're working through right now is the idea of identifying why you be, your reason for being. And as if they went through this exact same exercise, you just did a really good job of defining what their statement might be. I guarantee you theirs would be a little bit different, but it sounds like not too terribly different. But the idea of enriching was one of the words. There's an action verb for you right there. The idea of being totally present, there's something in there that would make sense. What their core value was may be presence or awareness. It's hard to say what it would be, but yeah, it's not the we're kind of jumping ahead. We talked about this a little bit at the beginning, but this exercise is defining exactly what you were talking about. It is that why you be. In whether you're, for the example of your girlfriend, as a mom, that she was being who she be, that's the point. That reason for existing is with you no matter what you are doing. And that's the vision piece that we get into next in the MVP program, is that
Mm-hmm.
mission is identifying why you exist. Vision is identifying who you exist to be, who you be. So why you be, who you be. So that's the idea of, and that's the piece
Why
that
and who.
changes. Yeah, the piece that changes is vision. You think about vision, I call it, again, the canvas of life. And who you saw yourself as, that experience in the future when you were younger, is different today than it was then. Because as we go through and we experience vision coming to fruition, God gives us new vision and new dreams to pursue. But we're the same. Our why is still the same, no matter where we are in our, we call it a vision quest, right? So good rabbit trail to kind of have a clear differentiation. Mission, why you exist, why you be. Vision, who you be. That vision of your future, that vision of who you're becoming. It's a very identity driven, which is why it can be sabotaged if we experience vision. We experience identities as we grow up that throw us off track. We start believing things that are not true about us. It can keep us from realizing the dreams and visions that we've been given. So really important stuff. We may have to do a whole nother series on vision. We'll see. But on the mission statement, we'll come back and identify again. So the importance of acting on our core value is what we're working towards, and what the homework was this week. So you kind of went through. Did you answer all three of those questions?
Yeah. Describe what action verb might look like when executed by you. And I said, connect, communicate, and inspire. Left me feeling very good about the focus of my identity as I move into this phase of service in my life. I want to keep those uppermost in my mind as I design what the deliverables are. And so then number 3 was, are you ready for 3?
Yes, absolutely.
Describe how you feel looking at the verbs you selected. Did any of your choices surprise you? Do you feel validated or recognized when you apply them to yourself? And what I wrote was, I was a bit surprised that the words that attracted me most had to do with affirming. Creating didn't surprise me, but affirming and supporting were a little bit of a surprise. Sort of a mentoring set, but that does fit well with my coaching role that I have. Every job I've ever had, they've made me a teacher. When I was in the Air Force, they made me an instructor. When I was in corporate, they made me a national trainer. When I started my company, I would go into other companies and help them train and develop and instruct. And so I think I've been doing this all along. And when we talk about calling, some people identify that with, you've missed your calling, meaning a lot of times that's religious and whatnot. But people have always said, obviously your calling is a communicator. You're a teacher and a communicator. And I would absolutely have endorsed that as a communicator. But teacher was the way that manifested was teacher. And that surprised me.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. So you're man, the process that you're plowing through is beautiful, because you are literally recognizing, both of us. When I defined my mission statement was about 15 years ago, so early 40s. And as I went through the process, I had the advantage, as you do, of hindsight. And so you're able to, as you're working through this, see, oh, wow, you said it. I was doing this. It's like I was doing this wherever I was. It's what we talked about earlier. It's the parts of our life we're still there. Wherever we go, we're still there. And so as we look at our past, we can see where we were living this out. And as we move to our future, we can have vision for how we will be living this out. For you and I, we talked about professional speaking. And so, but we're still there. We're still going to be living out of who we were created to be. And so I absolutely love that. And those words are fantastic. So great job on your homework. Congratulations. I give you a thumbs up. I love the words. And so now the next step is going to be, is what I call combining and refining. And so it's time to put them together. So you have your core value of authenticity, and you have your verbs of connect, communicate, and inspire. And so the idea now, and we're not going to do it here on the podcast. I'm just going to give you the homework assignment. And again, there'll be a PDF that you can download. But the idea now is going to be putting the verbs that you've selected, your action verbs, with your core value. And again, as we've been talking about the whole time, don't rush through this. Don't do it in a distracted environment. Get alone where you are without distractions. Try your very best to leave your phone in your car or purse or top drawer or whatever. And spend some time really looking through as this continues to evolve. And do this. Put each verb one at a time, combined with your core value. So, Steve, you're going to be putting communicate authenticity, complete authenticity, or connect authenticity, inspire authenticity. And as you do that, you're going to just take some time to say them out loud. You and I are both visual learners as well as audible learners, whatever the word is. And so
Auditory.
you auditory. Thank you. We're going to speak those to see if they resonate. I know, I'm learning. And we're going to speak those to see how they resonate. You may want to write them down. There's 2 pages in this PDF, so you can write them down and ask yourself, and again, one at a time. So connect authenticity. Ask yourself, what about this verb or core value do I like? And write it out.
Yeah.
Think about it. Write it out. That's it. That's exactly what we're working through.
And then it's got a notes page with it.
Yes. So you're going to ask, what about this verb and core value do I like? You're going to look at it and you're going to say, is this what I really do or want to do? And this is really important. Again, we have some hindsight in our lives. Steve, we've lived a few years. And so we can look at this and say, is this really what I have done? You gave us a great intro because you said I can look back and see this is what I've been doing all along. The other side of that, is this what you want to do? So this idea of representing this, is this what you want to represent in the world? So the very first podcast we did, we talked about my friend Dan, who felt like he had taken a wrong turn. He was not in a position where he was able to live out his mission. And that's why he felt like he was in the wrong job, not necessarily doing the wrong thing, because what he did it everywhere he was. And so ask that question. Ask the question, is this really what I'm about? So when you look at the various roles that you are in right now and that you've been in, is this what you are about? Is what you've been about? And this is kind of this one might sound a little more, even more touchy-feely than that one. Does this ring true for me?
Does it resonate? Does it ring
Does
true?
it resonate? Does it resonate? Thank you. I like ring true because I don't mispronounce it. Right. Be patient with this process, just like every other step. Give yourself some time. If you come across a situation where you're like, man, after giving this some thought, and we'll just use you as a guinea pig, let's just say, I'll pick the one that you already talked about because we know it works. Do I communicate? Does this really ring true for me that I communicate authenticity? And what if the answer is no? What if you don't look back and see that, yeah, this is what I've been doing and this doesn't, what if it's not that? And it's like, I've never really been in communication. I don't have a brand called Story Masters. And then you can kind of go and say, hey, I'm going to step back into my verb process and look and see if I need to refine this a little bit more and see if I need to switch out, communicate with another word. That might be, and instead of communicate, it might be teach, because there's a lot of ways you can teach without using the communication, verbal communication, what we think of as communication a lot of times. So anyway, the whole point of that might be a terrible example, but the whole point of that is give yourself room to go back and refine, and be okay if you're like, you know what, after thinking about this isn't really it. I need to go back to the drawing board and work through. So that's the homework. You're going to put them together one at a time, think them through, answer those questions. If something is off, be okay with going back and revisiting the verbs. Be okay with even going back and revisiting the value statement. If all of a sudden you're like going, I don't know if that's really my core, not value statement, but value word. That's not really my core value. I'm close, but after working through this now for a few weeks, I think it's this word instead of that one. That's okay. This is an evolutionary process. We want to get as close as we can. But like I mentioned in another podcast, I don't know that I'm going to get to heaven and God's going to go, you nailed it. That's the exact mission statement I wrote for you before you were even born. But I know I'm close, because when I'm living it out, when I look at how I have lived it out and how I desire who I want to become, it is at the heartbeat of me. In fact, if we have a couple of minutes, I want to end with maybe just some inspiration to not only get through this homework, but to stick with us through another couple of weeks as we continue defining mission statement. I was on a coaching call yesterday, and is a new guy that I started coaching. It was our first session together, and he was talking about how, I just know there's more. I know that there's something beyond just this job and this work that, and it was like he's asking the questions that my language is answering, right? And
Yeah.
it hits me. In fact, it overwhelmed me. I didn't cry, which is usually what happens when I get overwhelmed, but it was an amazing moment where I was able to say these words. I'm not going to use his name because I don't have permission, but I said, hey, here, I got some great news for you. As we work through this process, I can guarantee you that you're going to be moving towards that more, that reason for existence. And he looks at me
Right.
like, guarantee? And he's like, how can you guarantee me? I said, that's a great question. And I've never thought of it before, but it hit me yesterday. I can guarantee it because he's working with me. And my mission is to passionately inspire others to more of what they exist for, why they were created, of why they're on this earth. And so I know that because we're working together, I can't guarantee his actions. I can't guarantee his follow through, but I can guarantee he will be moving that direction. He will be closer to the center of his more than he was before we started working together. Because that's why I'm here and we're working
That's right.
together and I'm doing it. That's why everybody that's listening, that's why you and I can have a confidence as we work through this process that it's going to happen. People have to take action. People have to follow up steps and those kind of things. But it's gonna happen. It's a guarantee because it's why I'm here and I'm doing this. It's like, and it feels almost egotistical to say out loud. But as I thought that through, I'm like, I was saying it, and all of a sudden I'm like, that's true. I've never had that thought, but that is true. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's exciting. It was an exciting moment.
Yeah. What you're saying essentially is that your missions are aligned and they complement each other. What it is that he wants is what you want for him, and what you want for yourself is to help people like him get where they want to go. And you've trained yourself for that, and you're able to hear his processes, give him feedback that redirects him. You're like mission control. You can call and you say, okay, you need a mid-course correction. You come 12 degrees left, and that's the guidance. We'll see whether you do it or not. But I can tell you that's what you need to do. That's cool.
Yeah, it was great. It was great. So that is our homework. Put your verbs and your value together. Work through that process. Again, give yourself time, and I think it's going to be a beautiful thing. You're going to feel things coming together, and that's what I think is happening. As I listen to you, Steve, kind of putting yours together. It's like, oh, this is starting to. I can start seeing where I've always been doing this. Yes, it's who you be.
And I also can look at places where my life wasn't what I wanted it to be, wasn't fulfilling. I wasn't having the kind of success that I wanted. And I was doing things at those points in time that I was good at and capable of, but didn't care much about, didn't want to do, and was doing in ways that I didn't think were producing results that mattered to me. And so I was able to see why I was getting the score on the card that was, that the world thought was terrific, but I didn't feel like it was me there. It was just, some of my skill sets were there. So every Monday, right here on the Crossroad Diner, for the next couple of weeks at least, John and I are going to be walking through his process for helping you develop your mission, your life mission, and your identity along that line. And we'll be tiptoeing into vision and plan because he can't not do that because that's how he's wired. So be with us on Mondays for that. Then on Thursdays, I do an interview with someone who has been walking through their life and running into the Crossroad Diner when these things aren't working. That's when you end up in the Crossroad Diner. It's when who you are trying to be, and the verbs that you're trying to act out are not happening. And it's time for a change of direction and you need some help figuring it out. Those case studies are going to be much more informative in light of this teaching process. And then, after we get through with this process, John and I are going to talk to you about some coaching opportunities with he and I on some other courses that we're developing. But until next time, this is John Burnett.
Thank you very much. Good being here.
And Steve McCurdy for the Crossroad Diner. See you then. Come on in and have a bite at the Crossroad Diner, the place your spirit goes when it might be time to change direction. Join us on Mondays for fresh episodes of training and on Thursdays for fresh case studies of folks who had to make decisions and had to visit the diner to get a little bit of guidance. We'll see you next week on the Crossroad Diner.